first with that. Go back to that.
Okay, so remember what I said about nobody ever called my office with good news? So I get this call one day, and it's after Scott and Shirley and several other people have started testing at Marshall. So they're KSC NASA badges, but they're testing people and they're working at Marshall. I'm still at Kennedy, so we've kind of got this weird swap place thing with the Astro team, but it's still the same bunch of people. And the phone rings, and there's this guy really animated on the other end, and he goes, I don't know what you're thinking. You're throwing Astro away. There's pieces all over the place. They're going to cut it up today for scrap metal. And so, you know, I'm used to getting bad news phone calls from Frank and Damon and whoever else is 50 people at KSC. But I say, what are you talking about? Who the heck is this? So the guy's animated, and he says his name. You know, this is Rick Howard. You know who this is. And I'm out at this auction in Huntsville. They got the cruciform on a flatbed truck, and they're going to cut it up today and sell it for scrap metal. Well, anyway, so now the wheels are turning in my head, and I pull out an index card, because that was kind of my memory, and I start writing down everybody I know at Marshall and people at KSC that worked Astro that would want to save it. And either the first or second call was Scott. And so I think what Scott heard was, oh my God, they got the cruciform, they're throwing it away, they're going to cut it up for scrap metal, it's on a flatbed truck, and they've already sold it at auction. And Scott, I think, says, what are you talking about? Who is this? So, he's in the middle of a workday at Marshall, and I'm pretty sure he stood up from his desk, whipped out a credit card, and went and met the cruciform, and had to buy it from that scrap dealer that afternoon. And that's how it started.
That's a true story. I got the call from Byron. We had already started collecting hardware, but we hadn't really talked the cruciform. Somehow we probably naively thought it's safely tucked away, right? No, it's in this wooden crate down at this junk dealer, and he was down there getting ready, tearing this box apart to start cutting up the blade and melt it down. And so it was. I went down there. I think I had to pay cash. And what's it going to take? That looks like about $1,500 worth of aluminum to me. Okay. And I brought enough, I hoped I had enough. And okay, so I paid the cash. He goes, you need to get it off my yard. Who am I? I'm on TDY, I'm in Huntsville with a rental car. This is 3,000 pounds, and you know what the size of it is. Call back to Brian. Good news, we got it. Bad news, you gotta help me move this thing. And sometimes fate is just fortunate, and it picks up again back to Byron going, do you know anybody nearby? And it turns out he does.
So my sister and brother-in-law owned a manufacturing business south of Arab, Alabama. And that's where the cruciform lived for 22 years. So it was offloaded at a junkyard, a car junkyard, about 2 miles south of their business. And it was still too heavy for them to pick it up with their forklift. It required a 20,000-pound forklift. So we had to do the initial deintegration, removal of all the shipping container that we could get off of it. And then we had to do a rotation here from the horizontal to the vertical to stand it on a pallet.
So this is the cruciform as we kind of saw it coming into us through it needed a lot of work, and I've got some pictures there. That's the initial condition. You can see how ratty it was. And when I made the joke about the mudnopper nests, you know, that was real. I wasn't being facetious. When we took these blankets off, and they were nasty, the MLI all crumbled in our fingers. And Tia and others spent many, many hours taking the MLI, scrubbing them with Simple Green, and Craig and company were in the individual cells of the ortho grid with a toothbrush, and then scrapers getting rid of the mudnoppers. And there's a picture of Mikey in there, and that's how nasty those cells looked initially. And we thought it's sad to see, but at least we saved it. We did some pressure washing. You know, it was weird to think we've got this precision thing, and we're in the back of a building here at the Space Museum, pressure washing flight hardware. Is this, just do it, you know. These are the MLI blankets. You see how nasty they were? It was mold and mildew, but they cleaned up nicely. We preserved that. Again, the cleaning of the individual cells, you kind of see the transition from bad to super shiny clean. I mean, it took a lot of work to do this. And some of them couldn't be saved enough. There's still some tarnishing underneath. The cables, boy, was that a challenge. You start removing this rat's nest of cables and you don't realize just how many connectors and stretched out probably miles worth of copper. We laid it out on desk after desk in the Astro facility here. We started with toothbrushes and cleaning solution, and we did that a few days, and I don't know if Mike or somebody else kind of ran the numbers. At this rate, I don't know if we're going to be alive.
It'll take us 2 years.
Yeah, I think it was about 2 years. We said, okay, plan B. Well, you know that pressure washing worked good for the cruciform. And so that top picture, we brought it out back, and you would never, ever, 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 ever do this with cables. We took pressure washing and went up and down and knocked off all the dirt, and it removed 99%. Then we went in with the toothbrushes. No, you just wouldn't do that. And it goes against, I'm an electrical engineer. It just, you remember when we did that, it was like, Mike, you do this. Mike, I'm turning away. Let me know when it's back inside. Then we started putting the pieces together. So the cruciform was done, the blankets are going on. We installed the experiment rows that had been saved from the mission. One thing I need to mention, it's a good Marshall story. It's a great Marshall story. We've had so much help and support from the Marshall Space Flight Center. When Mikey, we started this project, we benefit that one of our level 4 colleagues, sadly no longer with us, Shirley Hewitt, before she retired, she saved the master tree, drawing tree. And for the Astro, the engineers here know this, it's an incredible list of all of the drawings. And it's her brain. If you were going to try to put this back together, you absolutely need it. She preserved it. So we had all the drawing names and numbers, but do they exist? Well, the National Archives, the Marshall Archives had it. Mikey contacted them, and with Tia's help, they said, yes, we can provide you these files. And they started coming in, and then Byron and Teledyne Brown kindly printed out size-y drawings, and that's what you see back in the work area. But there's a punchline on this. So we have the drawings, you see Mikey there. In fact, that's the woman that was helping us with the archive group. And she came out, and we're talking, and Mikey's showing progress, and she's kind of tearing up a little bit. And you read that, and you go, oh, okay, have we done or said something inappropriate? And I'm trying to think what that would be. And she said, I need to tell you guys, this is emotional for me. We who work in the archive world, we see data come in, we're told it's important, we store it for decades. You're the only group that came in, I shouldn't say the only group, you are a group that came in, we provided this data, brought us out, showed the benefit of that data in saving something important for our National Archives. For her, that was closing the loop that it makes it all worthwhile. And it chokes me up to even think about it, because for her, there's a reason you do this. You don't know what it is, but you're saving it. It's an archive, and Mikey and Tia and the others that work the documentation makes this possible. When we finished up cleaning the cruciform, we moved it into the atrium where we live today. This is kind of the phase of the operations. So once the cruciform was ready, Whoopi comes in. Jim Lattis is here with his wife from the University of Wisconsin. Jim remembers that first phone call. I got Jim's name from Nicole because my contacts, although I still had some University of Wisconsin contacts, they weren't pointing me toward the telescope. And Nicole pointed me, we need to talk to Jim, introduced myself. And I think what broke the ice is David Dvorkin, who we're working with the Smithsonian, suggested maybe Whoopi is the first telescope of the 3 to join the club. And we had a couple of visits, went up there, Mikey joined us, we drove through their storage facility. For the shipping hardware, the telescope itself was at Space Place, their museum up in Wisconsin that the campus runs. And it was Jim's work with the campus to work alone with the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. It came down, and we did preparations and then eventually installation of that. Mikey and the other engineers on the ARC project brought out the original procedures that we did at the Cape, with a few modifications, of course. If we were missing parts, what do you do about that? Well, there's a program that NASA runs called Hunch, It's a weird acronym. I don't think I can even say what it stands for, but it's an incredible program with high school students partnered up with NASA folks that they machine and fabricate hardware. So we could give them a mechanical drawing, a chunk of stainless steel, and a little bit of money to buy, you know, the expendable bits and routers that you need. They go off in a couple weeks later and give us this part that's essential for putting this back together, and it's quality work, incredibly. And then if it needed painting, well, we didn't just spray paint it white, no, we put aero glaze on it, the original paint. When we're restoring this, our attention to detail, I must say, is immaculate, and there's a reason. If it's headed to the Smithsonian, or for that matter, any good museum, you want high pedigree for the things that we're doing. The OSP, similar story, and I need to tell one more segue story. It's another Byron rescue story. There's this metal bracket, it's that red bracket you see in the bottom left and upper right. Only one made, and Larry could tell you all the engineering details on this Invar piece of metal that was machined to hold the OSP with precision to the cruciform to hold the optical sensor package, which you can imagine. If you're going to maintain an arc-second precision, this thing has to not move. Only one fabricated. Probably 3 people on the planet know what this thing looks like. And it just happened that one of them, Byron, is out in somebody's back 40, and he goes around and kind of kicks this thing. I think that's the optical sensor package bracket. And the guy goes, well, if you can lift it and get it in your truck, it's yours. Is that how I remember it?
Yeah, it was an eccentric engineer that some of you guys from Huntsville might know, George Hodges. He worked on DFI. And I orchestrated with him to get MLI pieces for Astro, because he would buy lots of hardware, and he didn't care about the flight hardware. He wanted the test equipment, the ground equipment. So we had a completely different interest. And I told him, I said, that's an OSB flight plate, and you know, it's a historical artifact. And he said, I'd have thrown the thing away if I could have picked it up. The only reason it was in the briars was because that's where he drug it out of the back of his pickup truck. And then he figured out he couldn't pick it up again. So he says, if you can bring somebody back with you, you can have that thing. Just get it out of my yard so I can mow.
That's how these things work. And so we lifted the OSP and integrated that, and that's what you see now today, is the cruciform is complete, the ROWs are installed, Whoopie installed, optical sensor package. It begs the question, and I leave my end of the story, is where's HUT and UIT? Well, when we made that original pitch to Valerie Neal, HUT and UIT were part of the deal with the Smithsonian.